Hey, welcome all. I'm Evan in sales here at Moraware. Here in just a second, I'm going to share over my screen, show you all kind of a quick run through of Systemized, a general high level of some of what the software manages. Something to keep in mind as we go through. Systemize is actually pretty customizable. So I'll show you kind of a general idea of how it can be run. At the end of the day, what our team wants to do is work with you to customize the system to ideally something that feels fairly familiar to what you're using now. The idea is that we don't want this to feel like a totally foreign concept when you get in there. We want this to feel familiar to your existing workflow, just a bit more connected. A bit more organized, a bit easier to kind of keep track of everything. Because at the end of the day, that's really what Systemize is a communication tool. The idea is instead of you having to communicate via manual whiteboards or manually talking to people, that everyone can just put information in one place, find that information whenever they need it, and keep it organized to just what they need to see at any given time. So let's jump in. Let's take a look at Systemize here. All right. So this initial screen here, this is a job page, and we're going to go through this in more detail. The best way to conceptualize this page we're on here, it's a digital version of your existing job folder. So every job you do in the system gets a dedicated job page like this, where every bit of contact information, attached file, schedule, basically anything that's related to this job, it's right here. You can pull it up on a cell phone, a tablet, anything with an internet connection, find exactly what you need to find. And the rest of the system is going to build from the details on each of these job pages. So let's run through a job page here a little bit. We've got kind of high level details up here. And again, a lot of this is very customizable. Any of the contact details over here, as many contact people as you have for the account, you can just search any of those details, find this whenever you need it. Job activities, again, very customizable to whatever the steps are your team needs to work through for each job. Here's a pretty common flow of 4 steps here. The idea would be for each of these, you get kind of a pop-up card here. And this is where we're going to manage the details and the status of each of these activities. So we can say this is complete, this is confirmed. We can say when should this happen, about how long should it take, who is responsible for taking care of it, and then any of the notes that are relevant here. And these details, I'm going to leave this fairly blank here because we're going to use a more effective calendar here in a minute to actually schedule for this. But the idea is that as you capture each of these details, you can always look here and you see what was completed and when, what's coming up next and when, and who should be handling it. So if you look here and everything's completed, job's done. And we can feel confident that we completed everything we need to. Moving down a little bit, we have some forms. Again, these are just a couple common examples. Maybe a checklist to make sure everything's being completed. My area room details might feel a little familiar to maybe like a job sheet or cut sheet you're working off of now. A way to say, what room are we working on? What material, square footage, basically whatever it is you need to keep track of for each job to keep that information in one place. And what the system's going to do is actually make use of these details throughout the system. So you've got a standardized way to capture the information you need. Any changes, one place to make those changes. And that means everybody's on the same page the entire way through the job. You're not going to have the shop cutting from old information and messing up a slab. And if you happen to use CounterGo, it does also fill out a lot of this information for you through orders. And if you want to print this out, here's an example of how of the page Mind produces. And the idea is here, just to be kind of a cover sheet for your packet, where these people need to go, when do they need to be there, what do they need to complete, and then the details they need to see. And I'm going to show you a more robust packet here a little bit later, where we're going to use this as a cover sheet and attach other files you might use for those packets. To show a couple more things on the job page here, files, that's your hard drive. So signed contracts, photos, DXF files, CAD files, whatever's relevant to this job. This is where you can organize those documents. to find them quickly when you need them from whenever you need them. But also, let's pull those into packets as needed to make that process a lot easier. Last thing I want to highlight, job issues. So notes, it's important for communication for a team. You might have noticed a few different places. There's notes in your forms. There's notes in the activities. But if you have something that's the utmost importance, you don't want anyone to miss, pop it in the job issues here. So these can be things that are actually going to hold up this job, for instance. I'll mark it as urgent and save it. This is going to tag this job the entire way through my system with this bright red icon, big bold text. You can see it at the top of the page here. Basically, these are the things that are going to follow your team around. So no one can miss this issue until you close it out and it's no longer something they need to attend to. So yeah, that's the job page. Again, the digital version of your job folder, a way to just collect everything in one place. Now let's see how Systemize kind of puts this information from each of these to work in maybe some calendar views. So first off, this is kind of a weekly view showing each of my different activities, each color coded out however you want. This might look familiar to a Google Calendar you're using, or maybe a whiteboard. And in fact, a lot of people like to take a view like this, but put it up on a TV in the office or shop and let it be your whiteboard that updates in real time. The details you see on here are customizable. In my case, there's those job issues. Again, really hard to miss. The numbers are square footage that fed directly in from that form I filled out on my job page. And because of that, some subtotals top of each day. Really nice way to kind of check capacity, make sure we can actually get to these things. And this is a great kind of general overview, but we can also get a little more specific if we're trying to schedule for, say, templaters specifically, maybe something more customized like this. So this is the same information, but filtered to say, hey, only show me my template activities and only show me my 2 templaters. Now that we clean that up, we have kind of an hourly view here, so we can actually see when they're available. This was our template activity we added at the beginning. I didn't schedule for it because I didn't know when, but Norm's free at 8, so drag and drop, and that just fills those details on that card out for you. If you need to reschedule, easy, just move it to the next available day. It's going to update all the details on that schedule. And these guys are probably driving all over the place, so maybe pop this open on a map, get a quick view for, does this make sense? Does the route make sense? Rough idea of the distance and time. Is there enough time in the day? Nice way to kind of plan this out to make sure that this is actually the route we want these guys following for the day. And we touched on it briefly earlier, those packets. Paper is important in a shop. And you could use this to go completely digital. Some people still want to use paperwork. So let me just produce a packet here. The idea is we help you set up which files and documents should be in a packet each time. And then as long as you're storing those in the system, all you have to do is schedule, choose your packet, and hit print. And this is just going to automatically assemble that packet with all the relevant info needed in the order of what they needed. So I included a drawing. This is our cover sheet from earlier. Here's a drawing from CounterGo. Really, whatever it is that's important to include in these packets, now all you have to do is print it, slap a staple on it, they're out the door. It's the most up-to-date information with exactly and only what they need. Or it's a PDF, so they could just run this through a tablet or something like that. Last calendar view example I want to show, something maybe for the shop. Now, again, there's all kinds of different views people run for each of these things. Here's a pretty common one we might see in a shop. And again, this is one we'll see people put on a TV in the shop or near the shop. This is showing each of the upcoming fabrication activities. In my case, just the next couple of days, but you can go much further out if you want to. And if you have someone who's decently tech savvy out there, you can have them say, hey, this is in progress, maybe what time they started and when they finished. And that's going to give you the ability at any given time to see, hey, what is the shop working on right now? What are they not working on that we need them to prioritize? And be able to just keep track of, if a customer calls, you can tell them, hey, this is in fabrication right now. Let's solidify that install. Now, I want to note again, this is by no means an exhaustive list of the calendar views. As Annie can attest to, there's nearly endless possibilities of what you could set up here. I just wanted to kind of paint a picture of a few that are pretty commonly used. There's other ways you can look at info too. If I take us here to jobs views, this is a little more like a list or a spreadsheet. In this case, I'm showing all of my current jobs with each of their activities. Everything in blue is completed as a status. So here's a nice way to just kind of get a quick check on the health of the business. What's the current status of each of these jobs? Is something running late? Has that little moon there? Is a template not complete somewhere? You can check, did they not actually template this thing? Or did someone just make an honest mistake and forget to update the software? So a nice way for you to come through and make sure things aren't falling through the cracks. You can also utilize a list like this for specific purposes. So let's say you have a list of people you need to call, maybe to confirm an appointment before you drive a couple hours out of town and they're not actually home, or a list of people who owe you money. You can have a view that looks maybe kind of like this. Now, this is filtered to show me exactly and only what I need for this specific task. In this case, we're trying to confirm some upcoming templates to make sure they'll actually be home. So in this case, I know I'm calling Frank at this number. If I call Frank and confirm this, then that Annie's Kitchen is just going to fall off this list because we accomplished the goal of this list. So it's kind of like an interactive to-do list that just filters these things out of your view as you no longer need them. And that's where Systemize can really kind of get powerful, is when you work with your onboarder in the training to set up these views for each of your different users. So ideally, they really only see, what they need to see and when they see it. So this can live with someone in their view. As soon as they're done with it, falls out of their view and into mine. I take care of mine, falls out of my view into the next person. You can really systemize the system to where you can help keep it really clean for everyone, make it easier to manage their role. Last couple quick views, we added a job issue there. So if you're a manager, owner, nice way to just keep track of all the most important things standing in the way of your team. Here's the stuff we need to get solved to keep the train on the tracks. And just like before, if I solve this and close it out, it's going to fall out of this view. So you keep it, you've got a record of it going back, but now it's not going to follow the team around everywhere they go. Last thing, obvious, customer calls in, search, and be able to quickly pull up my name, phone number, email, whatever you need, pull it up right away, takes you to the job page. You can answer any questions about their job. What's the current status? Do we need to reschedule something? Whoever you have managing that, they can just search and manage that information without having to stop someone else in the shop or office and see what's available. If everybody's running everything through the system, everyone has the same information, they can all work off it the same way. So again, that's kind of the quick overview here of Systemize. Within the demos, we do. The idea is we learn more about your operation, what you're looking to do, and then we tailor this a bit more to your specific operation. But there's kind of the general idea.